So today I'm here with Doug Ruck. Doug, why don't you tell us a little bit about what your role is at King's?
Thank you. I'm the chair of the Board of Governors of the University of King's College.
All right. Today I've got a couple of questions for you, Doug. So my first question is, while at King's you served as KSU president, what big agenda proposals or campus changes was your executive trying to accomplish back then?
It's important to remember the time. I graduated from King's in 1972. That was a period of time in which there was a great deal of political unrest, civil unrest. The Vietnam War was still raging. There was a great deal of civil strife with the United States of America. Some of that was coming over into Canada. We had people being killed on campus due to race riots, etc. So this was an important period of time when a lot was happening. So at the same time here in Canada, while we weren't dealing with it directly, we did in fact have individuals on campus who left the United States as a consequence of the draft in the U.S. They didn't wish to serve in Vietnam, so they were here. So we were dealing with this in an indirect manner. At the same time, King's was going through fundamental changes. We had begun to look at how best to operate the university in a changing environment. Students were becoming very active during that period. So King's, which had always been a much more conservative university in many ways, was changing its focus. One thing we were looking at that period of time, and when I was serving as student union president, was separating the divinity school that was part of King's, was the mainstay of King's, to a separate entity. In fact, the Divinity School of Theology was going to be a significant change. And the question was, how would that impact upon King's? At the same time, there were meetings beginning looking at whether or not there would be a foundation year program, even before the name actually came into being. So as a student union rep, we spent a lot of time around the table talking about what a new program could look like, what its focus would be, and how in fact it could be such a program that would bring people in as opposed to maybe pushing people away. These were challenging moments. And I must stress as well that at that time our entire student population was just in excess of 300 students. So it was a small campus. We didn't have the buildings that we have now, but it was still a very tight community during that period of time. But we were on the cusp of significant changes. So as a student union, our task, my task, was to present those changes in a way that would be constructive, that would try to form allegiances or alliances, and manage, and at the same time allow us to put our voice forward in a very constructive way. So yeah, there was a lot going on.
Wow. Sounds a lot like, not a lot like, but a lot like the big kind of intensive things that the KSU is trying to do today and making change on campus.
Yeah, and that's an interesting point because, you know, as the saying goes, as much as things change, they remain the same. And in some ways that's unfortunate, because some things we're seeing nowadays are not necessarily reflective of a progressive environment, but more of a regressive. Things are going back.
Interesting. Well, that kind of leads into our next question. So our next question is, what has been the biggest change at King's since you were a student, and what has remained most the same?
You're right, it does, doesn't it? Obviously the size, going from 310 students or thereabouts to the entire university campus to now close to 900 or so, and I guess at one point close to 1,000. That's a big shift. The change in the university infrastructure, the additional buildings, for instance. The student body in some ways has remained in many respects the same. Obviously there's more students, but the intensity, the desire to make a difference, the desire to be vocal and bring about a societal change existed then, it exists now. And there I see a great similarity. How you go about doing that might change. I mean, my era was pre-social media. Now people communicate in a much different way. We wrote letters, we sent telegrams. Eventually we had fax machines. But things have changed quite a bit, but they have in many ways remained consistent.
Again, very interesting. And our last question, if you could go back and tell Doug the student to do anything during his time at King's, what would it be?
That's a very good question, because Doug the student, given his age, given what he was doing, thought at least that time he'd seen the world, that he was aware of what was going on and was quite cognizant of what was happening. But at the same time, as I look back now, I would be inclined to say to the student, do not be afraid to ask certain things. Do not be afraid to go down certain roads. Failure, in fact, is not the enemy. Fear is our inability to do certain things, to say certain things, can be a regret. We should never have that regret. In fact, don't be afraid to ask for things. No is not the end. No may just be to help you along the road. So I think would encourage him to be a little more assertive in certain areas. Although there's some may say that Doug the student was very assertive to begin with, but knowing him personally, I'd be more inclined to encourage him somewhere in that direction.
Okay, well, thank you.
You're very welcome.
This has been a nice talk. Thanks, Doug.
My pleasure.